And let me get my screen share going. Okay. Can someone give me a thumbs up if they can see that, or just a reaction on there? Um, some kind of reaction? Great. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to this 2025 info session on the Alaska Fellows Program. My name is Tina Buxbaum, and I'm the executive director of the program, though we only have one full-time employee, so I'm also the admin and the accountant and all the things. So if you become a fellow, you will get to know me very well and have lots of my emails in your inbox. Um, so I never know what kind of information and what kind of background people come into these info sessions with. So I wanted to kind of start out with a 30,000 foot level. So the vision of the Alaska Fellows Program is this network of thriving young leaders and also thriving nonprofit and public sector organizations within the state of Alaska. And we do this by pairing young professionals with mentors at our partner organizations for 9-month fellowships. And we kind of help you grow both professionally and personally as you participate in the program. Some very basics, just so we're all on the same page. The Alaska Fellows Program is intended for early career professionals. And by this, I mean fellows are generally just done with their undergrad education to 3, 4, 5, 6 years out. We have a few that have finished their masters, but in general, everyone's in that just trying to figure out what to do with their professional selves and just trying to figure out those next steps. There's 2 prongs to the program. There is the professional development component, where you're at a partner nonprofit or public sector organization with a mentor and you're learning and growing in that professional realm. And at the same time, you're living together with other fellows in program housing and you're learning and growing on a personal front as you're interacting and having these experiences with others that are different than you. And at the same time, we're also connecting you in with your broader community. There's 4 locations, Anchorage, Juneau, Sitka, and Fairbanks, and I'll go into those in more detail. And then the program runs September through May, so kind of that school calendar that everyone's used to. So a lot of people don't have a good reference about how big Alaska is and where the different host sites are. So I put this in here to kind of give you a sense of scale. Fairbanks is about a 7-hour drive from Anchorage, and I live in Fairbanks, and for me to get to Sitka, it's about 6 hours and 3 plane rides. So Sitka is actually closer to Seattle than it is to Fairbanks. So the state is massive, and yeah, the geography is really kind of mind-boggling for a lot of people. To go through each host site, we'll start north, and then we'll work our way south. And I always say Fairbanks, if people don't have a good grasp of Alaska, it's probably what you envision in your head when you think about Alaska. That cold, dark nights with northern lights and then light all day in the summer and that really extreme, snowy for 7 months of the year. That's Fairbanks. It's very continental, so the temperatures will get down 30, 40 below in the winter and 80, 90 degrees in the summer, big swings. The community itself has about 70,000 people. It does have 2 military bases and the main research university of the state, so it kind of punches a little bit above its weight class in a sense, where there's a lot of amenities that you wouldn't expect in a community this size. We have a really amazing ballet, we have a symphony orchestra, a lot of different things that you wouldn't expect. There's 2 program houses, 4 bedrooms in each, so for 8 fellowship positions, and the 2 houses share 2 cars between them. Anchorage is our city site. It's 350,000 people. It's on the coast, so it's a lot more temperate than Fairbanks. In Anchorage, if it gets much below 0, they think it's really cold there, so it doesn't get nearly as cold as Fairbanks. It does have all the things that you think of in a city, a major international airport, lots and lots of cars. Think Western US kind of city sprawl. So all of those things. There's 3 program houses in Anchorage. There's two that have 4 bedrooms and one that has 3 bedrooms. So there's 11 fellowship positions in Anchorage, and they share 3 cars between them. And I should mention that both Fairbanks and Anchorage are on the road system. And by that, I mean you can drive from the lower 48 states to both of those communities. And that becomes important with our next 2 sites. Juneau is the first of our southeast communities. It is the capital of Alaska. There's probably 25,000 year-round residents, but it has these really interesting population swings. So in the summer, they get 1 million cruise ship passengers, and you have all of the tourism infrastructure that comes with that. And then it quiets down in the fall, and then in January, when legislative session starts, you have all of the infrastructure that goes with the state government, all of the staffers and the legislators and all of that. So it really has these ups and down swings. We have 2 houses in Juneau. There's 3 bedrooms in each. They're located right downtown, about 2 blocks from the Capitol. Juneau is a very walkable community. At this point, we don't have a car in Juneau. We're working on it. Um, it would be nice to have a car for Costco runs and things like that, but in general, you can get around Juneau with public transportation. Juneau is only accessible by boat and plane, so it's perfectly fine to bring your own car, but in order to get it there, you're going to have to put it on a ferry. Um, and then Sitka is our small town site, and it's where AFP originated. There's maybe 8,000 people total in Sitka and about 18, 19 miles of roads. I always like to joke that if you ran a marathon in Sitka, you would have to double back on yourself a little bit. Um, and it's also different than our other sites in that there's just one program house in Sitka. So all of the fellows, all 7 of them live together. And it's really like, think small town America. When you're the new person walking down the street, everyone knows you're the new person and they'll ask you where you're from and what you're up to. It's a very, very walkable and bikeable city. We do not have a program car and we don't intend to have a program car in Sitka anytime soon. And it's much, much more temperate. So in both Juneau and Sitka, if it's much below freezing, they think it's really cold. So it's that temperate rainforest type of environment. Think of like Pacific Northwest, where it rains a lot and they'll get some snow, but it's really this like right around freezing temperatures in the winter. An overview of the program support kind of outside the work environment. There's an opening and closing convening where I bring all 4 sites together in Fairbanks in the fall to kind of talk about pre-reading and expectations and set program intentions. Then I bring everyone together again in April in Juneau to reflect on the program and kind of have that closing event. There's also site-specific retreats at the beginning and the end with your just specific site cohort. At the beginning, it's a good place to have those community building discussions about how to share resources and all of those different things. And at the end, it's a nice way to close out the program. There's Zoom events during the course of the whole program, ranging from outdoor safety to book club discussions to job panels or alumni panels on what do you do next with yourself. So they're pretty wide ranging. And then there's also a professional development travel fund that fellows can apply to. So if there's a conference or something like that within the state that you really want to go to, we help you figure that out. Each community has at least one site coordinator, and these are usually alumni, but they're people that are embedded within the community and really invested in helping the program succeed. And they're there to be kind of your first friend on the ground. So if you have a question about how to do something, or if you really want to get connected in with a specific community group, they're there to help. They're also there to help lead some of those initial cohort conversations around shared resources and expectations, and to kind of help deal with any conflict. They're also kind of my eyes and ears because I'm in Fairbanks and not in the other 3 sites, so it helps me out a lot to kind of have somebody on the ground. We also really help fellows get connected in with our alumni network, which is well over 200 alumni at this point, and our board members and our connected community members. We really want to help you establish your community connections. This slide's in here because folks get very, very excited about the positions and the position descriptions and the host organizations and the work component. And that is one really important pillar of the program. But I also want applicants to really come in thinking intentionally about what it means to live together in a house with strangers that you've never met before, that come from different backgrounds, different lived experiences, have different communication styles and boundaries, and how you really have to come in open to that experience and willing to share and build those relationships. So just spend a little bit of time thinking about how you would navigate in that space before you apply, because it is a big component of the program. And I throw this in here as kind of a fun, just smorgasbord of the different community connections that you can make. One of the things that we really help facilitate is fellows getting out into the broader community and building your life within the community that you're at. And so these are some of the different examples. We've had fellows that judged elementary school science fairs, were volunteer firefighters, helped with adaptive ski programs at the local ski hill. We had a cohort that got super into crafting and sold their paintings and crafts at crafts fairs all over the place. Um, right here, she's making birch sap caramels. We've had folks that are coaching ski teams and helping people prep taxes and all sorts of different stuff. So the world's really your oyster, and we're here to help you get connected. So whatever you're interested in, just speak up and we'll help figure it out. This is probably the most important slide of the whole presentation. Um, so it's kind of about what you get and what you give. As part of the program, your housing and utilities are covered. So during the 9 months that you're in the program, you don't have to worry about rent or heat or electricity or any of that stuff. In Fairbanks and Anchorage, there are shared cars. We try to provide one car per household, so that way you can get around. Both Fairbanks and Anchorage are driving communities, and it's challenging to get around without the cars. You're able to bring your own personal car up. There's no reason not to. You can also bring your own personal car to Sitka or Juneau. It just requires putting it on a barge or on a ferry, but it's a fun ferry ride if you want to do it. You get $1,200 a month as a living stipend to cover food and incidentals and things like that. $750 to defray the cost of moving up here, and that's included in your first stipend. You're guaranteed at least 10 days of time off during the course of the fellowship. And I say at least 10 because some of our hosts have calendars where fellows get a little bit more time off around Christmas and things like that. But you're guaranteed at least 10 personal days. And then if you complete the entire program, including 2 required surveys, you get a $500 completion bonus at the end. As part of that, you're agreeing to work up to 40 hours a week with your host organization to attend all of the retreats and reunions and convenings and things like that, and to actively participate in your cohort community and in your broader Alaska community. Um, I put this in here because I love the program and I think it's great. And I really want fellows to come in with their eyes wide open and have considered all of kind of the ins and outs. So this is a couple things to think about before you apply. Anchorage and Fairbanks are driving communities. If you do not drive, they are very challenging communities to live in. We have had fellows that have gotten around on public transportation, but it's not ideal and it's not easy. So if you don't know how to drive or you're not comfortable driving, Sitka or Juneau are much, much more accessible communities. As part of the program, fellows do not receive health care. So if you're not still on your parents' health insurance, you have to navigate the Medicare, Medicaid marketplace system. We also do not have loan deferment, sorry, excuse me, or loan assistance at this point. So please make sure that you factor in your student loan payments that you might have. Additionally, I want folks to really think about AFP as a learning and a service experience. You're foregoing that year after college where you could jump into a corporate job and be making lots of money for this chance to grow and learn personally and professionally. But at the same time, I don't want you to to dig yourself a huge financial hole, and 2 months into the program, you're not able to feed yourself because your living allowance is going to all of your student loans or something else. So make sure that you've kind of run the budget numbers and you know it'll work for you. And I know we have a few locals that have registered for this webinar. And so I throw this in here because this is kind of some of the experience I've learned from other local fellows that are returning to Alaska, is that you really have to think about how you're going to balance your existing networks within the state with your cohort that you're growing and building connections with. So how are you going to balance friends and family that might want you to be participating with them at the same time you have these growing relationships with your cohort? So make sure that you're coming in eyes wide open and realizing there's going to be this tug and pull on your time. And also, you know, we have a lot of local fellows that have used this as a chance to experience a different part of the state. So, for example, if you're from Anchorage, it might be really exciting to see what Sitka is like to live in and stuff like that. So just kind of plug all that into your decision matrix. So the application, kind of getting into the weeds now. Um, it's two parts. It's all run through a Google form. So there's a suite of questions that are around communal living and why Alaska to make sure that you've thought about that. Those are reviewed internally by AFP. Then additionally, I am getting all of the position descriptions together right now, and they will all be posted. And as part of the form, you're able to opt into the positions that you're interested in. And as part of those position descriptions, hosts ask for things like resumes, cover letters, references, and you're able to upload all of those things into the Google form. I then take those, I send them to the hosts, they review them, they decide who they want to interview, and they make the final selection. So you're opting into what host you're interested in, and the hosts themselves are opting into what fellow they want. I am not in the middle matchmaking or anything like that. I want both sides to be interested in the partnership. Do my two pieces of advice. Do read the position descriptions very carefully. Some of them ask for additional unusual items like transcripts or a writing sample or something like that. If you don't submit those items, the hosts often use that as a kind of first screening tool. Also, you're able to select more than one position that you're interested in, and you're also able to upload more than one cover letter. So I highly recommend that you write an individualized cover letter for every position that you're interested in, and I'll make sure that the right cover letter gets to the right hosts. Hosts want to know that you've taken the time to at least Google them and look at their website and things like that. Additionally, within the position descriptions, there should be a contact for each host organization. Please email that person, call that person if you have questions about the position. I have not done them all, so I'm not a great resource for what the ins and outs of the particular position looks like, but that person that's listed as a contact can talk to you about the organization and about what the position will be. Additionally, a lot of them have alumni that have been at least at that host organization, if not in that particular role. So look through our alumni database and reach out, ask questions, do your homework. You have enough time. The application will be open for a month. You have enough time to ask people questions. And kind of the timeline. So right now I'm herding the last of my cats to get my position descriptions together and up on the website. And you guys all blast out to this group as soon as they're posted. But once the application is posted, you'll have a month to get all of your materials together, write your cover letters, all of that. And then applications will be reviewed. Hosts will do their interviews and make their selection in March and April, with the intention that in late April, early May, you're finding out the outcome and you know what your next steps are. And if there's any unfilled positions, then they'll open back up on the website and we'll continue recruitment throughout the summer. And I think that is the end. So let me stop sharing and give everyone the power to unmute themselves. So if you have questions, you should be able to unmute yourself so you can raise your hand or just speak up. You have me right now for however long there's questions, so here's your chance. Ask away. I know that was a lot.
I have a question about funding. Um, First, are the stipends taxed? And then also, do the nonprofit, like the host organizations, pay the stipend? And also, are any of the host organizations like having funding issues this year with like all the changes?
Yeah, great question. So the stipend is there's no taxes taken out, but we classify it as a taxable fellowship. So it's taxed like it's a scholarship payment. So it goes in. So generally, fellows are taxed very, very minimally on this unless you've made a significant amount of money already in the year. It doesn't add that much. It's not taxed like you're a contractor or anything like that. But you do have to withhold a little bit because you're gonna, wherever you end up in the tax bracket, usually fellows are well
Hmm.
below where you get taxed. Um, the payments all come from AFP. That allows us to tax it like that. When they come from the host organizations, then you get taxed like you're a contractor and it gets really wonky. Um, as far as funding, we've had a few hosts that have pulled back this year due to uncertainty. So that's kind of a little bit of the delay in getting the positions up because there's a few slots that I'm filling in for hosts that are kind of pulling back. The positions that will be up, the funding is secure for, so you don't have to worry about
Okay.
come July, all of a sudden, I mean, barring whatever craziness can still go on. But right, the current level of craziness come July, the position shouldn't just go poof and disappear.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Tina. I had a couple quick questions about deciding on positions. Like, how do you sort of suggest people weigh the position versus location? Like, positions you have experience that's relevant for versus more of like an interest? Any suggestions on sort of that selection process?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a personal choice whether you're, I would weigh kind of what you're thinking about your career trajectory is and what potential position would help you gain skills that would help move that forward versus, if you've been dying to always see what's it. Because, like, I mean, we definitely have fellows that have gone both ways. Some that have taken positions that they weren't super, like not their dream job or their dream host, but something that they thought they would grow in, but they really, really wanted to live in Juneau. So, it's definitely a personal choice. I would say, maybe kind of weigh what kind of experience you're interested in during these 9 months. Are you really interested in the environment and the cohort? Are you really interested in the work or both? Yeah, I guess I can't make that choice for you, but I would throw it in and what you want out of this experience. Sorry not to be more clear on that, but it really varies.
Um, just to speak a little bit more to either the professional development opportunities or potential for like continued connection with the partners that you're working with. Um, like I did AmeriCorps year or two ago, and it seems like they're set up somewhat similarly. But I'm wondering if you have alum who either like still have connections with their partner programs or yeah, I guess just if you could speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I can start really broad. Right now, as far as just remaining in the state for the summer after, we sit somewhere between like 70-80% of fellows end up staying for at least the summer. Partly you get here right at the end of the summer and you've heard about how amazing it is, and then you end right before the summer starts and you're hearing about how amazing it is. So a lot of fellows end up trying to stay for the summer. Long term, we're sitting at about 50% of fellows remain in the state for at least a year afterwards. It's a little bit fluid because, as you know, you guys are kind of the demographic that will be somewhere for a little while and then goes off to law school or med school or grad school, and there's lots of moving around. But about half of fellows remain. Um, and every year, it's probably 10 to 20% of fellows end up transitioning into a role with their host organization. So there's always ones where it's a great fit and both parties are super happy and they find a way to make it work. Um, a lot of the fellows that stay, they end up transitioning into a role that they got because they made some kind of connection. So in the spring, we spend a lot of time talking to fellows, and I do a lot of job panels and helping them make connections and one-on-one introductions and things like that to help fellows figure out what their next step is. So if you want to stay, there's a lot of resources at our disposal to help you connect into your next role and what your next step is.
Thank you.
And there was one question in the chat. The Nature Conservancy, I'm not sure. I'm still working whether they're interested or not this year. So to be determined still for the person asked about the Nature Conservancy. Abigail, go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering if there were any components of the AFP Google Form application that the hosts did see, just in thinking about writing cover letters, like what information they might be looking to see with how you've considered being a part of AFP versus like applying for them as if they were only a job.
Great question. The questions that are, like long essays in the Google form, I don't send any of that information to the host organization unless you tell me you would like that shared. So it stays internal. It's largely used to make sure that folks have thought about the communal living part. I would say the metric on whether you pass that evaluation criteria is whether you have thoughtful answers to the question. So it's really like just a prompt. But if you want me to share any of that information with the host organizations, just let me know and I'm happy to share whatever you want. But in general, the hosts see the things that they request in the position descriptions.
Thank you.
I had a question about fellows who have come in with masters, and how that affects your decision to accept them and like what those folks' experiences are like. Just because the program is or seems to be intended for as a learning experience, like would that make people with masters overqualified? I'm curious because I'm a local. I would love to come back and be a part of this, but I'm also trying to figure out if now is the right time to go to grad school and like when this would fit into the timeline. So I'm just curious about outcomes for those folks.
Yeah, great question. I would say so having a master's, not having a master's, most of the hosts are really looking for somebody that's interested in their organization and in the role, and that they feel can really both grow in that role and it'll be mutually beneficial. So while a master's is helpful, I would say I've never had somebody that's like overqualified because they've had their master's. The thing to think about is that generally, and I don't know what your age is, but generally that's the difference with the master's students or the folks with their master's versus the undergrad, is that they're a few years older. So just to kind of weigh, like, the majority of the fellows are in that 22, 24-year-old range, and a lot of folks with their masters are in that 27, 28, 29. And just to come in eyes wide open that that you'll be living with people that are at a slightly different developmental stage. But again, like I think it really adds to the program to have a little bit more of that spread, just because that's a little more like the real world, and that's part of what this program is like helping you kind of make that first step into the work world. So I think I think the cohorts that have a little bit more of a mixed age, they do very well. So
Great, thank you so much.
yeah, and I'll address the age limit question in the chat. The only hard age limit that we have is fellows have to be 21. I'm not putting, because they all live together in the same house, I don't want to put anybody in a position where there's any kind of legal question about drinking or anything like that. I would say the upper limit, generally we don't have fellows that are too much above 30, just because of the communal living part of it, where you are living together with others that are in their 20s. So if you have a family and things like that, it's not really going to work for the communal living component of it. But yeah, so like there's no hard set upper limit. And
What's
then, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, what's the typical age range of fellows? Like, what would you say the average is?
Yeah, probably 24-ish, somewhere in there, but our range is really ranged from 22 to I think 31, 32 has probably been our oldest fellow. So somewhere in that kind of early career stage.
Hi, I was wondering if for people who aren't from Alaska or who didn't grow up there, if you had any tips for figuring out whether this was right for them and also like why Alaska having, not spent much time there. Yeah, anything about that.
Yeah, great question. Well, I'll start with why Alaska. So the state has an outmigration problem at this point where, and it's kind of like a lot of the more rural areas of the lower 48 where people leave to go to college or young people are just leaving to go to major metropolitan areas. Well, at the same time, there's so many nonprofits and public sector organizations that are doing amazing work, and there's so many opportunities. And Alaska's a really, we always joke that it's big geographically and really small as far as people. So you have these chances to jump into an organization where um, you can really make a difference really fast and be super impactful, as opposed to being one of 400 employees at, United Way in Seattle. You can be one of 3 people in the office here and really have a chance to dig in and learn a lot. So it's just a really interesting environment for that. Um, and then considerations about moving to Alaska, I would say people, they really think a lot and get it really in their head about how cold it is, and that's very seldom the thing that surprises people. People overreact to that part ahead of time, and once you actually experience, it's not really that bad. The thing that surprises people and that they don't think about as much is the dark. So you will experience less sunlight than you've ever experienced in your life living here. It's just darker than the lower 48 states in the winter, and just how that impacts you. I think that always surprises people. So, and then the other consideration is just how long it takes to get anywhere. If you're used to being able to drive home on the weekend or, hop on a plane and just do one little jump to get somewhere, everything runs through Seattle. So it's going to take you, 3 hours to get to Seattle before you get into the major US like airway system. So. And I'll do the chat question. The organizations listed on the website, yes, those so far are the ones that are 100% confirmed for this year's. There's a few others that'll pop in, but those that you see on the website right now will definitely have positions this year. Other questions?
How many people typically apply, or does it vary year by year?
It varies a little bit, but usually 125 to 175, somewhere in there. There should be 32 positions, I think, this next year. And those are people that complete the whole application. I always have, a slug of people that do part of it but never complete it. So. And everyone should have my email. I can put it in the chat too, but it's on the website. And I'm happy to answer any questions via email or hop on Zoom or the phone and answer questions, anything like that. And I do recommend reach out to the alumni. I can tell you all day long what it's like to be in the program, but I've never done it. The alumni are the ones that have, moved to these communities and lived in the house with others and done these positions and can tell you the ins and outs of what it's really like.
I had another question that came to mind about the communal living aspect. I'm just curious, like what has been like the recipe for success with past alums in managing that, because I would imagine, there could be lots of interesting and potentially complicated stuff that happens when you move in with strangers. So
Yeah, great question. I think openness and communication are the two real keys for making it work. Whenever I've seen any like cohort interaction go sideways, it's almost always a communication breakdown where someone's reading intention into something that wasn't there. Someone said a text that someone reads more into what that person meant in the text than what's really there, and things like that. So really, coming into your interactions, being super open and assuming the best in people, and just kind of building that foundation. And that's part of the opening retreats and things like that, is the site coordinators help lead these conversations on how do you share resources? Like, are we all gonna, buy a big package of toilet paper at Costco and share this? How do we deal with the food in the fridge? All of those really nuts and boltsy conversations. But also, like, how do you like to communicate? What are your boundaries? What are you comfortable with as far as inviting friends over to the house? All of those conversations that need to happen so that people can live together. The site coordinators are on deck to help lead those at the beginning and really help set the stage for it to work. Are there any healthcare related organizations planned? I am working on it. There are a few that I'm talking with right now, and I just have to get them to actually commit and decide what they want. But at this point, I'm not 100% sure that there'll be any that are direct healthcare service. Look at my board here. Yeah, not sure if there'll be any direct healthcare or not.
Could you remind us again, like when the positions will be posted, and then like when the kind of deadline for the application is?
Yes, great question. Hopefully in the next week. Like I said, I'm herding my cats, trying to get them all together. But whenever they're up, it'll be open for a month. So, but yeah, it should be up in a week or week and a half as soon as I get my last few cats to give me their position descriptions and decide what they want. So. And I'll blast out. I have everybody's email from this registration, so I will let you all know as soon as they're open. Is it possible to defer? So we don't track that. So my recommendation would be to, join our listserv so that you know when it opens up for next year. And also, so most of the hosts come back every year, and so you're quite welcome to, contact the host organization and start building that relationship. I would say every year we have a few hosts that have prior relationships with somebody, and that fellow applies, and that person has a leg up because they know the host already and they've initiated that conversation and the host is interested in them. So like the house relationships, everything is relational, and you are free to contact the host and start to build that relationship. The car question. Da, da, da. So Fairbanks, yes, 100%. If you bring your car to Fairbanks, you will need a block heater. Otherwise, you will have a paperweight that sits out in the yard. Anchorage, two of the three houses have garages, so you are able to put your car in the garage, and it's kind of a little bit of a shared resource between the program cars and if you bring your car up. But in Anchorage, you generally can get away without a block heater, except for those super, super cold days, which don't happen too often. So if you want to bring your own car and you don't want to install that, Anchorage, you can probably get away with it. Fairbanks, you absolutely cannot. Um, and Juneau and Sitka, if you bring it, like, they don't get cold enough for that matters at all. So do fellows typically return home for the holidays, and is there funding for this? Fellows do typically return home for the holidays, and AFP does not have funds to buy plane tickets and stuff home for the holidays. So that is on you to figure out how to get home for the holidays. But generally, they do return home. Did I miss any in the chat? Any other questions? So the program dates. The program runs September 1 through May 31. And so the opening convening happens right away. I usually give fellows 2, 3, 4 days to kind of settle into their host community before I bring everybody together in Fairbanks. And then it runs through the end of May. So.
Do the Sitka fellows live in the same building as the AmeriCorps fellows?
Nope, AmeriCorps. I'm not sure where AmeriCorps is living this year. I think they have a couple houses spread around Sitka, but no, we actually own a house in Sitka that the fellows all live together in. Though they do hang out all the time with the AmeriCorps. So. Any other questions? Like I said, you have my email. Shoot me an email if something pops into your head later and you wished you'd asked it or anything like that. So. Great. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you all for joining. It was great to see such a big group, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's applications. Have a good final semester if that's where you're all at. So.
Thank you, Tina.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.